What's up guys, Valmir here with a new video for you, and today we're going to be diving into a game review of Rage 2. Now before I start with the review, I just want to say I did not play Rage 1. I was not able to play Rage 1. I was interested in playing it, but I never really got into it. So everything that I'm going to be talking about in this game review is going to be based on my experiences with Rage 2 and nothing about like the changes between Rage 1 and Rage 2 or comparisons of Rage 2 to different games. In this game review, we're going to be talking about graphics and the map, the story, and then last but not the least, the gameplay. Now without further ado, let's jump in and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Now the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is the graphics, but since I also want to talk about the map and the map is just a little portion of the game, I'll put it in this section as well. Now for the graphics, the game looks really good even if you don't put it in max settings. The gameplay footage that you're seeing right now is not in the max settings. I tend to not put any of my games, regardless of if my system can handle them or not, in the max settings. I want them around the mid range that the game can give. The specs that I used when I was playing this game was a 1650 Super and an i5-9400F. So if you guys have the same or a similar system, then rest assured that Rage 2 will work well for you. There's something about the color of Rage 2 and the grittiness of the graphics that makes it really immersive. It makes you feel like you're in this desolate landscape and you're like in a war against these like alien creatures or something like that. And I really like it. And on top of this, the biomes in the games are different enough to be unique. So there's like a plain landscape, there's a forest landscape, there's a complete desert landscape, and they all feel different from each other. But there are a few issues that I want to talk about those areas or the game in general, and we'll get to them in a second. One of the cons that I see, and I noticed this around mid-game, was that there's a lot to do on the map. You know, the map's pretty big and there's a lot of points of interest that you can go to and explore, but it feels very empty when traveling. So you can get to point A to point B, you can do stuff at point A and at point B, but the traveling towards there, it kind of sucks. The world kind of just doesn't feel as alive as it should be. There's also like enemy caravans that drive around the map and supposedly cause terror to areas that they drive through. But these guys are kind of a mini event that's used for character progression. While it's not a game breaker for me, it's something that I thought would have been better, you know, if the world was just much more alive. I just said that the color of the game really gives this gritty vibe, but there are some areas in the game like towns and bandit camps that when at nighttime just give this very neon wasteland kind of feel to it, you know, and it was a very welcome change for me because it was a huge contrast between the daytime landscape and then at nighttime you have all these popping neon colors and such. Moving on from the graphics and the map, we're gonna go into the story, and I think this is where most of the cons are gonna be felt in this game. Now, the story of this game is very lackluster. It's a standard revenge plot, you know? There's this big event happening, and like some starter characters, some starter NPCs are being introduced to you and stuff like that. Somebody important dies. There's a big villain, kills one of your apparently mother figure, and you're basically out to get revenge. Now again, I have never played Rage 1 before, so I don't know how this story connects with Rage 1's story. The main quest has you visit 3 main NPCs, and every NPC always has this, you need my help. Before I give you the help that you need, you got to do something for me, you know, like a favor for a favor thing. And it always almost usually ends up with killing stuff. I know this game is very action oriented, but I think there was just a lot of room for the story to branch out in the storytelling perspective. Exploring the game, like the combat is all that you do. So I was thinking that the main quest would give me like a break from that and actually just give me time to appreciate the lore and the landscape of the game. I actually put a lot of hours into this game, but if you just did the main quest, you'd finish the game very early. Having said that, it actually relies on side things to do for the game's longevity. Now, the boss fights in the game are very bad. I know we haven't gotten into the gameplay aspect of this, but I just want to say boss fights are just, they're nothing. They bring nothing new to the table. They're just glorified bullet sponges and basically test dummies for you to test out some different combos with your abilities and your guns and whatnot. Now, despite this, I think Rage 2 did a good job in distinguishing NPC characters. There are only a few notable NPC characters, but they are unique from each other, and I think the voice acting was good enough. Now, the animation of them talking, not so good, but I lived on Skyrim for a very, very long time, so I don't really care about face animations on voice lines. But I really felt like each main NPC in the game was introduced well. And on the final note, on the story side, I'm gonna touch on the ending part. It sucked so much. There was so much build up to this final quest. You know, you're finally gonna beat the bad guy, gonna infiltrate the base alone. Very risky and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's basically a suicide mission, and then the ending was just so lackluster, and it just ended so abruptly. I don't know, I just can't explain how disappointed I was with the ending. It was like a cliffhanger to set the game up for what, maybe a DLC or maybe a Rage 3 or something. I have no idea, but I like when I witnessed the ending, I just wanted to close the game immediately. There was no sense of achievement for me. It was just, okay, it's done. Now what? Now that the story is done, we're going to move on to the gameplay aspect of this. Definitely the best part of Rage 2. The shooting and the using of the powers are super impactful. It just feels like you're really hitting them hard here in this game, and I love it. And, you know, it's good because the gameplay is the focus of this game. And the way you can actually combine your powers to make these like sick combos. So you're given actually a few powers, but the main powers are like a force push, a vortex, a shield, and some kind of airborne slam thing. It feels so good to combo these abilities in a way that you actually gather up enemies in one spot and then finish them off in a single blow. There are 8 guns in the game, and each of them are very distinct from one another, and they actually have 2 modes of firing for each gun, except for one of the guns. I forgot the name of the gun, but it was some kind of like energy blaster where it would deal more damage if it was like heated up, but it would overheat at some point. So the alternative mode of fire would be to cool the gun down, which is pretty awesome, I think. You can also combo the abilities with the guns themselves. Again, like using the vortex to clump enemies together and then taking them all out with one smart micro rocket. Really, really good feeling. There is also another core mechanic of the gameplay called overdrive, where once you gain enough kills and your overdrive meter reaches full, you're able to go into the state where you deal more damage, your health regenerates, and your abilities are kind of amped up. And the cool thing about this is the way your gun shoots changes as well when you're in overdrive. So it's either a really, really fast way to kill your enemies, or it's like a get out of jail free card. If you're being surrounded by enemies, you can just pop it and kill everybody. This game like really prides itself on the action combat, you know, the fast-paced movement and stuff like that, and the overdrive really like cranks that up to 11. I'd say one of the downsides of the guns though, for most of the game, I never let go of the combat shotgun. Like once I got the combat shotgun, I kind of felt like I had the gun that I needed to finish the whole game. And then the other guns were just for fun. For some reason, the combat shotgun just fit the playstyle of the game so well that it was just so hard to put down once you got it. Another thing I wanted to add with the gameplay is the music. And it's very Doom-esque. You know, in Doom, where the demons start spawning in, there's like rock music or heavy metal music playing and you just get pumped up. That is exactly the vibes that you get with Rage 2 as well. It adds to the intensity of the combat, yes, but there are just some times where it just starts and ends abruptly. I don't know, it just felt kind of weird, but besides that, I think the music fits the game pretty well. Enemy variety is kind of so-so. There are a few factions in the game, and while they all have their own kind of perks to their specific faction, like the mutants have numbers on their side, bandits are like a mix of like armor and guns, and then the high-tech people have like cloaking devices and have more armor. The variety between the factions never really kind of like made me switch my gameplay. I still just use the combat shotgun to kill them all. In no way was I scared of any particular faction. I mean, it was pretty fun to experiment the guns and my abilities on them, but in terms of variety of gameplay when fighting different factions, it never changed. I also want to point out the game is very checklist-like. You know the term checklist gaming? Like when you discover a place or there's a question mark on the map, you just go there to like check it off. That's the kind of feel that I got from Rage 2 actually. And I think that stemmed from the main quests not being too interesting and the side missions and the side areas all being very, very similar to one another. In the end, it never really stopped me from playing the game because I thought the gameplay was fun, and at some point I just wanted to see the story of the game through because I was already invested in it. But I can see how this type of gameplay could turn people off. Now there's one part of the gameplay that I want to get into, and I'm very disappointed that this is not a big part of the gameplay, and it is the car combat. In the beginning of the game, you are given a vehicle. Now this vehicle can be upgraded with a variety of guns, weapons, and even abilities that you can use for vehicle combat. The thing is, vehicle combat is very limited in the game. The only time where I had to have prolonged vehicle combat was when I was trying to take down the caravans. And even then, it was just very lackluster point and shoot. No mechanics of some sort to like change it up. It was just basically trying to control your movement of the vehicle while still shooting the enemy. And aim assist for the vehicle combat was present, so it wasn't really that hard. Not only that, but this game has a variety of vehicles that you can collect, and each vehicle, or most of the vehicles rather, have their own unique gimmick to them. So there's like a tank-ish kind of thing, there's a monster truck with machine guns, but you never actually want to use them because you cannot upgrade these other vehicles. And vehicle health in this game is pretty low, and your main vehicle is the only vehicle you can upgrade the health of. More often than not, if you're going to be using a different vehicle than your main vehicle, it's going to get shot down pretty easily. I do not know why the developers of Rage 2 made vehicle health in this game so freaking low. It was a huge disappointment for me because I was expecting a lot of vehicle combat. That's a big con right there. The last thing that I want to talk about the gameplay is that at first, I think when the game launched, NG Plus was not a thing, but now NG Plus is a thing. Now, I haven't tried NG Plus yet, but if it's like any other game, then NG Plus allows you to start the game from the beginning with all the other things that you have from the previous playthrough already unlocked, meaning you'd have all the guns, all the abilities, all the upgrades already at your fingertips, which would account for, let's say, a few more hours of fun. But again, since a lot of the game is mainly repetition, you'd probably soon find yourself getting bored of the game fairly quickly, even after choosing to go through New Game Plus. Also, when I said that the game's ending sucked, was because when it put me back in the position where I could control my character, basically the game just told me that the only things that I can do now are the side stuff, basically exploring areas I haven't explored in the game. But me, when I play RPG games or open world games, I tend to explore everything first before I do the main quest, meaning after the main quest, there was basically nothing else to do. So if you don't do NG+, there's no point in replaying the game. Right now, there is a DLC connected to Rage 2, or an expansion, I think. I'm not really sure, but I don't have it, and I won't be putting that in this review because I obviously didn't get to try it out. I think I've already talked about everything I wanted to talk about in Rage 2. It's a pretty good game if you're looking for like a fast-paced FPS with a mix of abilities and a lot of gore and Doom-like music. Then this game might scratch that itch for you. But in terms of, you know, if you're going to remember it, I don't think this game is going to be very memorable. Now, with all that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, I'd probably give Rage 2 a 7 out of 10. While I do think the story is extremely lackluster and the gameplay loop being very repetitive, it still doesn't shy away from the fact that the gameplay itself is fun and that there are NPCs kept my interest enough to actually want to finish the game. If you guys want to try out Rage 2, I'm pretty sure you can get it on Steam and on the Epic Game Store. I got Rage 2 for free when the Epic Game Store offered it. So if you got it during that period and you just didn't decide yet whether you want to download it and try it out, maybe this is a sign for you to either try it out or just let it go forever. Your choice. That's gonna be the game review. Thanks again for watching, guys. I super appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what game you guys want me to review next. Anyways, I'm out. See you guys in the next one. Peace. Stay safe.